Hello and welcome to this Learn English Professionals recording brought to you by the British Council. To find out more and to access language activities and audio scripts, visit our Learn English website at www.britishcouncil.org/learnenglish.
Work skills. Achievement.
Thank you all for coming today. As you are all aware, we are here to celebrate 35 years of continuous service by a friend and colleague, James Dawson. He started as an administration officer in 1972 in our accounts department and worked his way up the career ladder over the years, finally becoming vice president in 1989 of the company and managing over 300 employees. As most of you who have been working here long enough will know, it has been a long struggle to become one of the European market leaders in our field. And you may remember in 1982, when we had a huge setback with the plans for a merger with our top rival company falling through. Because of that, we had to make some workers redundant. However, James was lucky enough to keep his job. Yes, those really were the worst few years. However, we managed to get through these difficult times by working hard. And James was a key player in the struggle to get us back on the path to becoming one of the largest computer manufacturing companies in Europe.
Good man.
One of James's biggest strengths has been his immaculate timekeeping and organisational skills. In fact, I have never known him to be without his diary. His negotiation skills and determination led to a tactful action plan to become one of the leading companies in Europe. I will never forget that day in 1987 when we had the final negotiations for the takeover of our rival company. James and his superb presenting and negotiating skills was one of the key factors to our success. The turning point in our company came with the successful takeover. And despite all the obstacles we have faced, the hard work and dedication of all our workers has made our company the success it is today. And I have to say that James, as one of our managers, has always acknowledged the work and contribution made by others. James, you rewarded your best employees with some of the best perks any company has given. Today, we want to acknowledge the hard work and significant contributions which you have made. So, thank you, James, for your loyalty to the company and your hard work. Thank you.
This recording was brought to you by the British Council. To find out more and to access language activities and audio scripts, visit our Learn English website at www.britishcouncil.org/learnenglish. Hello and welcome to this Learn English Professionals recording brought to you by the British Council. To find out more and to access language activities and audio scripts, visit our Learn English website at www.britishcouncil.org/learnenglish.
The Airbus. Everything about this aeroplane is enormous. The numbers are truly mind-boggling. Its overall length is 73 metres. That's about as long as the Great Sphinx in Egypt. The giant two-deck fuselage will typically have 550 seats, but has the potential to carry up to 800 passengers. The tail, at 21 metres from the ground, is as high as a 7-storey building. The 845 square metre wing area is big enough to park 70 cars. The A380 can fly a staggering 15,000 kilometres without refuelling, and in order to do that, it needs to carry 310,000 litres of fuel, making the plane's takeoff weight 560 tonnes. Incredibly, though, the A380 will actually be more fuel efficient than other similar-sized jumbo jets. Airbus claim that the plane will burn about 3 litres of fuel per passenger per 100 kilometres, making it as economical to run as a family car. The building of the A380 is a remarkable example of transnational cooperation. The final assembly line is in Toulouse in France, but this is only the end of an impressively complicated process. The construction of each aircraft is the result of collaboration between France, Germany, Britain and Spain. The wings, for example, are built in England and Wales. The main sections of the fuselage are constructed in Hamburg, Germany. Parts for the nose and the tail are in fact made in Spain and only assembled in Germany. Everything is then shipped to France to be put together. The A380 jigsaw gets even more complicated, however. Although a European venture, few people realise how much of the plane is actually made or designed outside the EU. The wings, for example, were created by designers in Wichita in the United States. Some wing panels, the wheels and most of the cockpit electronics are also made in America. In fact, in terms of actual cost, almost half the aircraft is made in the USA.
This recording was brought to you by the British Council. To find out more and to access language activities and audio scripts, visit our Learn English website at www.britishcouncil.org/Learn English.
Hello and welcome to this Learn English Professionals recording brought to you by the British Council.
Alcohol abuse.
Thanks for coming along to the studio today, Damien. We're going to talk about alcohol, and more to the point, alcohol abuse, what we've come to know as binge drinking.
Yes, thanks for inviting me, Anne.
We keep hearing about cases of binge drinking in the newspapers, on television, in magazines, and on radio chat shows like this one. But what exactly is binge drinking? What does the term mean? Is there a difference between binge drinking and just plain old getting drunk?
Well, the British Medical Association states that there is no consensus on the definition of binge drinking. In the past, we used the term binge drinking to refer to an extended period of time, a couple of days, for example, when a person would continue to drink alcohol to such an extent that he or she would abandon their usual activities, such as work, or, in the case of younger drinkers, classes. In medical terms, we usually agree that binge drinking refers to the thresholds that we have for holding our drink.
But isn't binge drinking all about drinking lots of alcohol in a short space of time? And don't we usually think of young people when we hear the term used? People who shouldn't really be drinking alcohol in the first place.
Well, you are right about the first point. In common usage, probably because of all the recent media coverage, binge drinking has come to mean a heavy bout of drinking in just one evening, or a similar time span. Another factor is the intention.
The intention?
Yes. The fact that binge drinkers actually set out to get drunk. That's their goal, what they're trying to do. Binge drinkers aren't usually solitary drinkers. They drink in groups, sometimes very large groups, especially in the case of teenagers. And binge drinkers are getting younger and younger, if you believe what you read in the press.
So, let's get this clear. Large groups of kids get together with the sole intention of getting drunk.
In a nutshell, yes.
And is binge drinking a particularly British problem? Surely young people drink in other countries too.
Yes, you're right. Lots of countries have problems with youngsters drinking. But it does seem as though the UK is taking a particular interest in the problem. Let's say that here, in Britain, we see binge drinking as a huge social problem. In other countries, it's perceived as less of a problem.
And should we be worried? Is it a problem?
Well, that depends. I certainly think so, yes. In 2003, the cost of binge drinking was estimated as £20 billion. The figure will have risen considerably since then, I'm sure. In 2005, the government released figures from the Health Service that suggested that 1 million accident and emergency admissions each year are a direct result of alcohol consumption. And the emergency services report that Friday and Saturday nights they can hardly cope with the demand for attention.
So why are the British so notorious when it comes to binge drinking? Are we worse than other European countries?
The culture of drinking in the UK is very different from other countries like France, Spain, or Italy. In most mainland European countries, children grow up seeing alcohol consumed slowly. A drop of wine with a meal. The odd beer on a sunny afternoon. In the UK, we go out to the pubs and, up until recently, the pubs all closed at 11 on the dot. So, what happens? Well, you drink as fast as you can, so that by the time 11 comes around, you aren't left feeling like another drink.
Do you think we are used to seeing people drunk in Britain, or do we still get shocked?
It depends, really. But being drunk isn't socially acceptable in most European countries, whereas in the UK, well, in some social circles, quite the reverse is true.
I'm afraid that's all we have time for, but myself...
This recording was brought to you by the British Council. To find out more and to access language activities and audio scripts, visit our Learn English website at www.britishcouncil.org/learnenglish. Hello and welcome to this Learn English Professionals recording, brought to you by the British Council.
Allergies.
Dr. Peterson, you've just published an article about allergies and the fact that they're on the rise.
Yes, that's right.
So, first of all, what kind of allergies are we talking about? Hay fever, asthma?
All allergies, really. An allergy is a physical reaction to a substance. That reaction can be sneezing, an itching, sore eyes, feeling sick, a rash of some kind, like eczema, or breathing difficulties, like asthma.
And are allergies on the rise?
Oh yes, absolutely. There's no doubt about that. When I was at school, there was only one boy in the class who had an inhaler. Now, 30 years later, more than half the kids in my daughter's class have them.
So why the great increase? Is it our fault?
Sometimes, yes, either directly or indirectly. Our lifestyles have changed a lot, starting from birth. It's a well-known fact that bottle-fed babies are more likely to develop allergies than breastfed babies. Yet fewer mothers breastfeed because they simply don't have the time, or because of practicalities, like wanting to share the feeding with a partner. Then, when our children are toddlers, we smother everything in disinfectant and destroy all traces of germs.
But surely that's a good thing.
No, it's not. Germs are good. Too much cleanliness is bad. Think back to when we were children. We used to make mud pies, splash about in dirty puddles, put all sorts of things into our mouths.
So are you saying we aren't allowing our children's immune systems to develop?
Yes, that's exactly what I'm saying. Our obsessions with cleanliness have gone too far. We need to expose our children to germs so that their defence mechanisms have a chance to develop and get stronger. If they aren't exposed, there's a danger that they'll develop allergies and food intolerances later on.
What about genes? Aren't some allergies genetic?
Yes and no. The jury is still out on that one. Allergy problems do run in the family, but we don't understand why. Scientists have identified cases in families where there's been some kind of genetic mutation which affects the immune system in some way. This might result in members of a family being more prone to allergies, but not necessarily the same allergies. So, Dad might be allergic to milk products, while one child gets hay fever, and another develops an allergy to some sort of skin cream.
And this doesn't explain why there have been such an increase in allergies over the past 10 years or so.
No, it doesn't.
So what has changed?
Lifestyles, in a nutshell. Mobile phone use. All technology, really. Stress levels are considerably higher than they used to be. We're exposed to more chemicals and toxic substances. diesel fumes, pesticides. One type of allergy that has risen considerably is food intolerance. In some places, an allergy to soya is very common. This is probably because soya is present in so many food products these days, and our bodies haven't had time to adjust to this change. We don't eat in the same way as we used to. Seasonal food is a thing of the past. Now everything is available all year round.
So, to sum up, why are allergies on the rise?
Well, if we're summing up, I'll keep it brief. Too much bottle feeding, an obsession with cleanliness, too few germs and too many convenience foods, too little fresh fruit and veg, and an abuse of out-of-season food all year round. Too many vaccinations and altogether far too much stress.
Dr. Peterson, thank you very much for coming to the studio today. If viewers would like to read Dr. Peterson's report, they can write in to his personal...
This recording was brought to you by the British Council. To find out more and to access language activities and audio scripts, visit our Learn English website at www.britishcouncil.org/learnenglish. Hello and welcome to this Learn English Professionals recording brought to you by the British Council.
Amateur.
Theo, you have set up a number of successful internet-based businesses over the last 5 years. You began working from your university dorm?
Yeah, I was just messing about really at first.
It was for fun?
Sure, yeah, exactly. I didn't know 5 years ago that I'd be here today. The thought never crossed my mind.
Would you still describe yourself as an amateur?
Not in the negative sense, obviously, but in the sense that I love what I do, then yeah.
But you do make money.
I can't complain.
Why do you think it's the net that has created so many successful amateurs?
Well, first of all, I'm not sure I agree with you that it has created all the successful amateurs. I mean, there are lots of other examples of people who love what they do and make money out of it. I'm thinking of someone like Michael Eavis, for example, the guy who runs the Glastonbury Festival.
Yeah.
I don't know how much money he makes from what he does, but that's not the important thing. Most of the year he's a farmer, but each year he runs this enormous music festival on the site of his farm. Actually, he doesn't even do it every year. Sometimes he just thinks, no, can't be bothered this year. You know, I think that's genius. Love that attitude. He's only one example, but there are lots of others. People who run record labels or have restaurants or make cheese.
Do you think it's important to love what you do?
Yeah, absolutely. There has to be passion for the product.
So it's the product that's important?
Again, yeah. Get the product right and everything else is simple. The marketing will look after itself. This is why the net has produced so many successful amateurs. The marketing is done by word of mouth, so to speak. People just tell each other about a site that's cool, especially through networking sites like MySpace and Facebook.
Marketing isn't important?
Well, of course it is. I'm sure there are marketing amateurs out there too, people who love what they do. But I firmly believe that you can't market a poor product. That's essential.
Your father was a successful businessman too, and you studied at Cambridge.
Mm-hmm.
Does having such a background help?
I'm from a wealthy family, yeah. I've never denied it. That helps, obviously. It's given me time. Time, above all, is the most important thing. Time to experiment and make mistakes, and not have to worry too much. But that's not a key thing in the rise of the amateur.
Are you sure?
Yeah, I am. Love, not money. That's my motto.
Thanks.
This recording was brought to you by the British Council. To find out more and to access language activities and audio scripts, visit our Learn English website at www.britishcouncil.org/learnenglish.
When did you begin learning English?
I studied medicine in the Netherlands for 8.5 years, and I started learning English in middle school with German and French. In my work, I travel all over the world. Well, now I'm in China only for a few weeks, but I have traveled with the Red Cross to most countries in the world.
What is the Dutch approach to teaching English in medical school?
When I was at university, all of our teaching was in Dutch, but all the textbooks were in English. At that time, there was a movement going on in Holland to make all the teaching in English. I followed this movement very strongly because in my profession, it's important to communicate in English. Most of the research done in the world is in English too, so I need to be able to understand it, to evolve.
What was your initial reaction to dealing with medical journals in English?
Oh, it was difficult to read all the time in English, and I certainly had a lot to do. I still do today. I think it was difficult also because I didn't know the terms in Dutch either. I was learning the profession. Although because of the volume of reading I had to do, I soon improved my reading skills. I had to find information quickly, but be sure not to miss anything important. This helps me now when I have to do research on the internet and separate relevant from irrelevant documents.
And what do you do when confronted with a document that you find difficult to understand?
Oh, I've been a doctor for 25 years and a surgeon for 10 years, so I very rarely have problems with medical documents.
Yeah.
However, when I have to read political documents about the country I'm in, which is often the case as I travel to many war zones, I try to understand the gist. So, to do this, I look quickly over the articles and take a few notes as I read.
Do you sometimes wish you could read English better for your work, or is your level sufficient to get by?
I'm never really happy with my level, but it's enough for my work. I think I have to accept it. I have application forms to read and fill out in English, and these are a little more complicated as they don't use medical terms.
How do you actively improve your English?
Oh,
If you don't, is there a reason? Is your current level sufficient for your professional needs?
at the moment, I'm working a lot with Chinese and French people, so I'm reading a lot in French. But soon I'm going to Scotland, and there I will read more in English. I find the more I read in a foreign language, the easier it becomes, because you start recognizing more words. Basically, I can manage in English, but I never stop reading, so I'm always learning.
Art and Business is an organisation that develops creative partnerships between business and the arts. Peter Jones is going to talk about the company's ideas and tell us about some of their success stories. Peter, maybe you could begin by telling our listeners why Art and Business was created.
Well, in the 21st century, productivity is no longer a matter of machines. The success of a company depends on its people and on the creativity of its people. It makes sense that the way to increase productivity is to stimulate creativity.
And what better way to stimulate creativity than through reading books?
Exactly. Every reader knows that a good book can stimulate the imagination and the intellect, get you thinking along lines you might not have thought of before, open up new worlds.
So, have you had any help in setting up the project?
Yes. The London Libraries Agency and an organisation called the Reading Partnership work with us on this project. We're trying to use the power of the written word to motivate staff in the workplace. In a recent survey, 700 business leaders were asked which book had inspired them and had a positive influence on their career. They were able to choose any kind of book, any kind at all. Only about 40% chose a business book. Most people chose a work of fiction, a novel, a play, or even poetry.
How can reading help somebody to become a more creative worker?
Successful managers need to be well-rounded people. They need active imaginations. When they interpret fictional scenarios, they are using their creativity. Readers combine imaginative skills with critical and analytical skills.
Are we talking about the right and left sides of the brain?
Yes. Our logical left side of the brain interprets the language of a book. The creative right side looks at the forms of expression. The left side analyses the plot, while the right side is more interested in the relationships between characters, the emotional aspects.
How does this transfer to the world of business?
Creative ideas make businesses more competitive. Shared reading experiences improve communication and morale at work.
Can you give listeners some examples of how this scheme has been brought successfully into the workplace?
Employees at W.H. Smith have stuck poems and quotations above their desks for inspiration.
Well, W.H. Smith deals in books. What about other examples?
The telecommunications company Orange set up a project called Talk Books at Work. They discovered that encouraging employees to read helped them to develop their linguistic and interpersonal skills. Marks & Spencer has set up reading groups at work. The groups cut across the usual hierarchies, and working relationships have improved greatly. Hello and welcome to this Learn English Professionals recording brought to you by the British Council. To find out more and to access language activities and audio scripts, visit our Learn English website at www.britishcouncil.org/learnenglish.
We're here at the Inter-Celtique Festival in Brittany, France, and I'm talking to two as yet little-known pipers, Iria Salgado from Galicia.
Hello.
And from Ireland, Ronan Doherty.
Hi.
So, how did you get started?
There's been music in my family for as long as I can remember. I learned the tin whistle when I was 6, and then, after a year, my father bought me my first set of pipes. But it was an uncle who gave me lessons.
I was 5 when I started. I learned by ear from my father, imitating him like it's always been done. When I was 10, he started putting me in for competitions.
Who have been your musical influences?
Well, Miladoiro, who started it all, and Carlos Núñez, who really put Galician music on the map. But my greatest inspiration has got to be players like Susana Saivarne and Cristina Pato for showing that women can be out there just as much as the men.
Ronan?
All the obvious names, really. Paddy Keenan from the Bothy Band, Liam O'Flynn, Davy Spillane, who I met recently, though I didn't get to play with him.
What sort of places do you play?
Well, in Dublin, you're spoilt for choice these days. And I have family out in Westport, County Mayo. I'm always there in the holidays, so I often go along and sit in on sessions at Malloy's.
Iria, I know you've started writing your own stuff. How would you categorise your music?
It's always based on the traditional repertoire, but I try to incorporate other Celtic influences as well. And the people I play with are no longer just from my corner of Europe. We have Irish, Cuban and Brazilian guys that come into the group. And so that gets reflected in the music I write.
Ronan, what has been your best gig so far?
Performing at the International Bagpipe Festival in Strachanice last year. The crack was amazing. And the chance to get together with guys from other traditions. Czechs, Breton pipers, Bulgarians. Some incredible sounds, really.
Iria, what advice would you give to other women wanting to take up the pipes?
Now is definitely the time. There's a whole new generation coming through. Even though women pipers are still a minority, there's much more acceptance than there was. Nearly half the bagpipe students in Galicia now are girls.
Where can we hear you playing next? Have you got many gigs lined up?
I'm doing a series of dates with the band in the west of Ireland and then going over to Holland and Germany next March.
I've got a few concerts in Galicia next month, and then I'll be in Zamora in Spain for a week.
Great. Thanks very much. And to play us out, you're going to do a traditional muñeira, followed by a reel.
This recording was brought to you by the British Council. To find out more and to access language activities and audio scripts, visit our Learn English website at www.britishcouncil.org/learnenglish.
So, why exactly does your job have a reputation for being stressful?
Stress is generally driven by the feeling of being out of control of a situation and the feeling of a situation controlling you. Trading financial markets combines both these scenarios. Your financial position can change in a matter of seconds. And what changes that position is generally a situation beyond your control as a trader. It is possible to lose in seconds what may have taken you a year to make. It's the feeling of uncertainty, being out of control, that causes the stress.
How do you relax in the evening?
I very rarely do anything work-related, so it's easy to escape the markets. I generally go to the gym or go for a run, especially if I've had a bad day. I always cook a meal rather than have a takeaway to do something my brain would regard as creative. I find it quite therapeutic. More often than not, I will watch some TV before going to bed, as I find it helps me to wind down. If I go to bed straight after work, it's harder to sleep.
What do you do to beat stress at the weekend?
I like to be busy and active. I like the feeling of having achieved something over the weekend and it being productive. I definitely don't like wasting days. Most weekends are a mixture of household jobs like fixing something, shopping or gardening, and socialising with friends. I also go to watch Arsenal at least once a week.
Do you think what you do to relax is an effective way to beat stress?
I don't think there is a specific rule about how to beat stress. I generally find that what I do is effective for me.
Would you consider changing your job because of the high stress factor?
I have considered leaving my job due to stress-related factors. I do, however, think that an element of stress is a good thing, and if used the right way, can actually be a positive thing. It can lead to a change in direction, success, and stimulate you to do something new.
What do you enjoy about the stressful aspects of your job?
Well, having said all that, I do actually enjoy an element of uncertainty. It keeps you on your toes. I enjoy a mental challenge. Trading triggers a very wide range of emotions second by second. How you deal with and manage those emotions dictates short, medium and long-term trading performance and success.
Do you become less stressed the longer you do the job, or does it become more stressful as you go on?
I would say it remains constant. The source and the nature of the stress changes, and how you deal with it changes due to experience, but it's always there.
Hello and welcome to this Learn English Professionals recording, brought to you by the British Council. To find out more and to access language activities and audio scripts, visit our Learn English website at www.britishcouncil.org/learn-English.
The Beck exam.
Hey, didn't you have your exam yesterday?
Yes, I did.
So, what was it like? It was a Beck exam, wasn't it?
Yes, it was. It was the Beck Vantage.
What does that mean?
Well, it's the middle one. There are 3 Beck exams, the preliminary, the Vantage and the higher.
So what level is that compared to FCE, for example?
Well, it's like the FCE. It's an upper intermediate level.
Ah. So what did you have to do? Was there a speaking test? Were you nervous?
Hang on. One question at a time.
Oh, sorry.
There are 4 exams: reading, writing, listening and speaking.
And how are they marked? I mean, do you have to pass all of the papers in order to pass the exam, or do they work out an average score?
Each paper is worth 25% of the total mark. So if you don't do too well in one paper, you can make up the marks on another paper.
How long did the exam last?
The reading paper was the longest. That was an hour. Then the writing lasted 45 minutes and the listening was 40 minutes.
What about the speaking?
That was 14 minutes, but it felt like 5. The time flew.
Tell me about the speaking exam. Were you nervous?
At first, yes. But my partner was much more nervous, so I ended up calming him down.
What do you mean, your partner?
Oh, you do it in twos. There are 2 candidates and 2 examiners too. Well, one examiner speaks to you, the other one just sits and makes notes.
What did you have to talk about?
Well, there are 3 sections. First of all, they asked us a few questions about ourselves, our personal life, and then about work-related things.
Oh, no.
No, that was fine. They didn't ask anything difficult. The next part is harder because you have to do a sort of mini presentation.
About what?
Well, they give you a few things to choose from and a minute to prepare.
A minute?
Yeah.
And how long is the presentation?
That's about a minute too. It was okay, actually. I spoke about what is important when you're selecting applicants for a job. That was quite easy for me. In the last section, you have to discuss something with your partner.
What?
Well, we were fairly lucky there too, I think. We had to imagine we were attending a trade fair in a foreign country. So we had to discuss travel plans and accommodation, stuff like that.
All very business-orientated then.
Oh, yeah. That's the whole point. The Beck exams are 100% geared towards people working in businesses. Everything you do is relevant. It makes it more useful.
And something good to put in your file. We'll include it in your job appraisal. We've got our meeting on Friday, so remind me then.
This recording was brought to you by the British Council. To find out more and to access language activities and audio scripts, visit our Learn English website at www.britishcouncil.org/learn-english. Hello and welcome to this Learn English Professionals recording, brought to you by the British Council. To find out more and to access language activities and audio scripts, visit our Learn English website at www.britishcouncil.org/learn-english.
Biotechnology.
So why are you so against genetically modified food then? I think you've been taken in by all the bad press.
No, that's not true. I've read up on the subject and I think there are just too many risks.
The GM foods that you get are probably safer than non-GM foods.
Don't be daft. Where have you got that from?
Well, there are tighter controls for GM food. There are controls in each country and then at a European level as well. If they pass through all of those controls before they reach the shops, they must be okay.
I just don't like the idea of having my food altered. What's wrong with the food we've always had?
We have to move with the times. The possibilities for GM food are endless.
What, redder tomatoes or bigger strawberries?
Yes, for one thing. But what about vegetables with a higher vitamin content? Or bananas with vaccines built into them?
What?
It's true. They've developed a way to produce bananas with a hepatitis B vaccine.
Not sure what I think of that. We haven't done enough research and playing around with crops is playing havoc with the wildlife. There are whole species of birds that are in danger of becoming extinct. Larks, for example, they're rapidly decreasing in numbers and it's because of the chemicals they're using on GM foods.
They haven't proved that.
Not yet, no, but it's only a matter of time. And another thing that worries me is the power that a few food companies will have if we start to rely on GM food. They'll dominate the poor countries even more than they do today.
They'll feed them.
At a price, yes, maybe. I'm worried about the food chain too.
What do you mean?
Well, playing around with nature causes no end of damage to some plants and animals. When a species dies out or mutates, it has a knock-on effect on the whole ecosystem.
I think you're being cynical. You're not giving GM food a chance.
Not cynical, just cautious.
OK, consider this. Global warming is threatening to destroy the habitat of polar bears.
What's this got to do with genetically modified food?
Everything. We could use GM food to change the polar bear's habitat now. That way we can prevent them from becoming extinct.
OK, I quite like that idea.
Good. You're starting to come round to my way of thinking.
No, I'm just trying to understand. I don't like being a guinea pig, and we're all being guinea pigs for the experiments they're doing on GM foods. I guess I don't like the way things seem to just be happening without much of a debate.
What do you mean? We're talking about it all the time.
Talking maybe, but nobody's listening.
This recording was brought to you by the British Council. To find out more and to access language activities and audio scripts, visit our Learn English website at www.britishcouncil.org/learnenglish. Hello and welcome to this Learn English Professionals recording brought to you by the British Council. To find out more and to access language activities and audio scripts, visit our Learn English website at www.britishcouncil.org/learnenglish.
IELTS Listening, Section 1.
Hello, Enigma Fusion Restaurant.
Oh, hello. Do you do group bookings?
Yes, we do. How can I help you?
Well, I'm not exactly sure of numbers right now, but I'd like to book a table for between 15 and 20 of us.
When is it for?
A week on Friday.
The 16th of November.
Yes, that's right.
OK. Well, usually we offer a set menu for groups up to 25 people. If you want, you can order à la carte, but it usually works out more expensive. And obviously, if everybody orders different food, then it can take us a lot longer to prepare. And particularly on a Friday, as we're usually pretty busy.
So, would you recommend the set menu?
Obviously, it's up to you. But it's a good option, and you get to try different types of food.
That's good. We have a couple of vegetarians in the group, some meat eaters, one person who needs gluten-free, and another who is allergic to peanuts. That wouldn't be a problem, would it?
That's not a problem. We cater for all dietary requirements. We offer several different menus, and you can choose which one you prefer. Our basic menu costs £25 per person. We do it for a minimum of 4 people, as with all our menus. That's menu A. Then they each go up in price depending on which one you order. Menu B is £30 per person, menu G is £35 per person, and menu J is £40 per person.
You now have 40 seconds to check your answers and read the questions for the next section.
And how do the menus differ?
Well, all our set menus include a variety of food, some Asian style, some Mediterranean, some Latin American, and some British food.
And can you mix all types of food in each menu?
Yes, that's right. Basically, you get a selection of starters for the whole table. For example, in menu A, you get a goat's cheese salad, onion bhajis, and guacamole. With menu J, you get spare ribs, king prawns, hummus and pita bread, and a selection of salads. You get more options with the more expensive menus. Oh, also, with the cheaper menus, you get house wine. It works out at 1 bottle between 2 people. With the other menus, you have a choice of wine. With menu J, you can also have cava.
Right. What about the main courses?
You have a choice of 3 options. All menus also include a dessert and coffee.
Right, I see. Could I pop by and pick up some menus to have a look at?
Of course. Or I could email them to you, if you want, to save you the trouble.
Oh, that'd be great.
So, what's your name?
My name is Hannah Bailey. That's HANNAH BAILEY.
OK, Hannah. And your email?
That's hb0470@freemail.com. Oh, and my phone number is 01793 211 873.
All right. So would you like to make a temporary reservation?
Oh, can I do that?
Yeah. I can pencil you in for... how many people did you say?
Well, I'm not sure. Between 15 and 20.
OK, that's fine. You can confirm numbers and which menus you want a couple of days before.
OK, that's great.
And I'll send you the email with the menus right now.
OK, thanks a lot.
No problem. If there's anything else you need, you can get in touch and ask for me. My name's Eric.
Great. Thanks, Eric. Bye.
Bye.
This recording was brought to you by the British Council. To find out more and to access language activities and audio scripts, visit our Learn English website at www.britishcouncil.org/Learn English.
Hello, and welcome to this recording brought to you by the British Council. Economy and Social Science.
Good afternoon and welcome to Modern Times. On today's show, we'll be talking about the boomerang generation. That's the new term that's being used to describe the phenomenon of young people, such as university graduates, who move back home to live with their parents. According to recent research, there are now approximately 6.8 million over 18-year-olds living with their parents in the UK. To talk about the reasons for this trend, I have with me in the studio today Helen Campbell, lecturer in economics at Thames University. Hello, Helen.
Good afternoon, David.
So, Helen, what is causing this trend of the so-called boomerang generation?
That's a good question. You see, there are a number of social and economic factors at play here. Firstly, as we all know, student loans have largely replaced the old university grant system in the UK. And as a result, student debt has risen steadily each year. According to the most recent figures, the level of debt rose again last year by 18.7%.
18.7%? But what does that mean in real terms?
Well, let's take the average graduate today. She's now likely to start her working life owing about £12,000 to the bank.
I see. That's certainly a lot of money for a young person.
Yes, and that's why so many young people are now moving back in with their families when they finish university or choosing to stay in the parental home while they study. The other important factor that is behind this trend is the high cost of housing nowadays. It's an extremely hard time for first-time buyers. You know, the average person now has to save for 5 years to get a deposit on a home.
How much of a deposit will they need?
According to a recent bank survey, about £24,000, and it seems the average first-time buyer is likely to be 33 years old these days.
Does this mean that young people are going to be more financially dependent on their parents for longer?
Well, it certainly looks that way. It makes sense for people to save money on rent and live with their parents for a few years at least. The survey has found that less than half the 6.8 million who are now living with their parents are paying rent, and many of them receive weekly allowances from their parents.
Thank you, Helen. Well, it seems that in the past the trend has always been for each generation to be better off than the previous one. But it looks like this trend may not continue into the next generation. Our lines are now open to callers who want to discuss the boomerang generation with us. Call 0845...
We hope you've enjoyed this recording. To find out more about the British Council and the services we offer, contact your local British Council office or go to www.britishcouncil.org. Bye for now. Hello, and welcome to this recording brought to you by the British Council.
Spotlight on Brazil.
This week's edition of Sustainable Cities goes to Brazil. Here's our correspondent, Sergio Nascimento, to tell us about a place that found a different way to meet some of the challenges of modern life way back in the 1970s.
Hello. I've come to somewhere that has collected numerous awards for its innovative approach to urban living, Curitiba.
Many governments are only now putting people back at the heart of city centre planning. Curitiba convinced people to stop relying on their cars several decades ago. How did they do it, Sergio?
Well, it started with an inspired and far-sighted mayor who, with a few colleagues, created what must be one of the fastest pedestrianisation schemes in history. Over the course of a weekend, they blocked off some of the city centre streets and started planting flowers with the help of local children. This overcame the opposition of the shopkeepers, who thought their businesses would suffer. They soon saw the centre could bring in far more customers than they'd had before. Popular support for a more people-friendly city grew from there.
The city itself has grown considerably since those days, I believe.
It supports a population of more than 2.5 million people today, and it shares the problems of many developing urban areas in South America. Immigration from the countryside, the pressure for housing, and so on. Yet, it has found some very original solutions. For example, instead of putting people into anonymous housing projects, it helped them to build their own homes.
Really?
By recognizing that many people already had the skills needed for construction work, it gave them support in the form of materials and advice from architects, and then let them get on with the job. That way, people have a real investment in where they live and really want to look after the place once it's built.
Is it true that the city has one of the most extensive and efficient transport systems anywhere in the world?
Yeah, that's right. There's a whole network of different types of buses that run into and around the city in their own dedicated bus lanes. It's coordinated by the City Council, but privately financed. They managed to get transport companies to provide such a comprehensive service by paying them for the number of kilometres they cover, not the number of passengers they carry. There are buses every minute in the rush hour, so the system can carry something like 2 million people. That's more than in New York.
And they connect everywhere to everywhere else.
Neighbourhoods, to workplaces, to hospitals, to tourist attractions. Nearly 70% of all journeys are by bus. The whole system pays for itself, and it's been developed largely on the existing streets, without knocking down buildings, so the character of the neighbourhoods is maintained.
Have they forgotten about cyclists?
No. There's a network of about 150 kilometres of cycle paths around the city. And parallel to the transport systems, they've developed a network of faróis de saber, or lighthouses of knowledge.
What are they?
They're free educational centres placed around the city, which have libraries, internet access, and other cultural resources. People can get help with job training, social welfare, and access to educational programs. Another thing they're keen on are the tree planting initiatives and the development of green spaces. They even use sheep to keep the grass down. It is much cheaper and it helps regenerate the soil.
And the secret to all this is planning.
It's not only planning, it's involving local people in decision-making from the start. Public participation has ensured that the system has continued, even though the man who started it all is no longer mayor.
Fascinating. Now, tell us about the recycling programme, Sergio.
We hope you've enjoyed this recording. To find out more about the British Council and the services we offer, contact your local British Council office or go to www.britishcouncil.org. Bye for now. Hello, and welcome to this recording brought to you by the British Council.
The BRIC countries: Brazil, Russia, India, China. What is their economic future?
Dawn, Dave, thanks for coming to this meeting to talk about something that I think is very important.
Well, it's good to be here.
No, I agree. These are important issues.
Can you both fill me in on developments in the BRIC countries? Dawn, you first?
Well, here we're talking about Brazil, Russia, India and China. John O'Neill of Goldman Sachs in London recently wrote an influential report on the future of these four countries.
What were the key messages of the report?
Well, it's common knowledge that the economies of all four countries are developing at incredible speed at the moment.
Yes, Russia has become a major player on the world's energy market.
Yeah.
India's IT companies are now recruiting amongst the best of the West's IT graduates. Chinese industry is quickly moving upwards in the value chain, away from low-value goods to higher-end products such as cars, car parts, electronic and computer components, just as Japan did in the 50s. We're now waiting for Chinese brands to go global, as Fuji, Sony and the like did from Japan.
Brazil is now a major supplier of industrial raw materials to China. China is investing heavily to improve Brazil's transport infrastructure, to facilitate the rapid export of these goods. China is buying increasing amounts of food from Brazil.
Sure. What sorts of things could go wrong?
Well, energy supplies are a problem for China. Chinese energy imports are the main driver behind recent spikes in oil prices. Well, there's an increasing possibility of drought in the north of the country, which could threaten food production. The political situation has been quiet for some time now, in the cities at least, but a downturn in the economy could threaten this. These are just a few of the things that could go wrong.
OK, I see. The situation may change, and these predictions may not be 100% correct.
No, that's correct.
Thanks. One question. Where's Africa in all of this?
Good question, Bob. These predictions are based on what's happening in the world today. African countries have a couple of major problems. Today, in many African countries, rates of HIV infection are very high. Many young Africans who should be in work, helping these economies to develop, are ill and aren't able to contribute. The second problem, more money needs to be spent on improving the education systems of African countries.
Are there any signs of things improving?
Well, some countries such as Uganda have been successful at reducing rates of HIV infection. And did you know oil reserves have been found in Chad recently?
Oh, no, I hadn't heard about that.
Well, oil has been found there. New oil reserves have been found in West Africa too. If these discoveries continue, some African countries may well join Brazil, Russia, India and China.
We hope you've enjoyed this recording. To find out more about the British Council and the services we offer, contact your local British Council office or go to www.britishcouncil.org. Bye for now.
Hello and welcome to this Learn English Professionals recording brought to you by the British Council. To find out more and to access language activities and audio scripts, visit our Learn English website at www.britishcouncil.org/learnenglish.
The Bullats exam.
First certificate, advanced, proficiency, Trinity and IELTS. There is no shortage of English language qualifications on the market at the moment, if you need a certificate to impress an employer or enrich your CV. But now there's yet another one, Bullats. Mark Cohen, who is training manager with a large international banking group, has just introduced the Bullats exam as part of the corporate training programme in his organisation. So, Mark, 2 questions to kick off with. First, why another exam? And secondly, why Bullats?
Well, first of all, let me say that I'm lucky in that I work for a company who invest a lot in training, and we see language training as an essential part of that. We have offices in over 24 countries worldwide, so obviously our staff use a lot of different languages, not to mention our external clients. We do a lot of language training, and the exams you mention are all fine in their place, but they're not really what we're looking for.
How do you mean?
All they do is show that you have achieved a certain level.
And what are you looking for?
Well, this is where Bullats comes in. What we need to find out is not the language level of the people who work for us, but their ability to speak that language. And it is exactly this that the Bullats exam tests. It not only evaluates their skills, but also lets us look at their suitability for further language training, and helps us to decide exactly what kind of training is necessary.
And you then design language training based directly on their needs?
Exactly. We work with a group of language trainers who design materials and sessions specifically to meet our corporate needs, and also the needs of the people who take the courses, helping to maximise our resources.
So far, so good. But why the necessity for the exam? Why not just do the courses straight away?
Well, we've done language courses before, and they've never achieved quite what we want. We even had an extensive programme of sending trainees to the UK to do language courses. They all had a great time, but to be honest, the results didn't really meet our corporate objectives.
And Bullats helps you to do this?
Yes, I have to say. It's proved pretty successful so far. We've given trainees the Bullats exam at both the beginning and at the end of the language courses they've followed. It allows us to accurately measure their progress and the efficiency of the training they underwent.
How do you manage to fit an exam into busy working schedules?
Bullats has proved very easy to administer. We can do it at any time, unlike the other exams which you mentioned, when they can only take them twice a year, which would mean a lot of delays. Not useful in a fast-moving business like ours.
Is it only for English language training?
No, we don't just use the English language version. As I said before, we work in lots of different countries, so our staff have to be able to speak more than just English. The Bullats test can also be done for French, German and Spanish, all highly useful languages in our corporate environment.
Mark, thanks for your time.
This recording was brought to you by the British Council. To find out more and to access language activities and audio scripts, visit our Learn English website at www.britishcouncil.org/learnenglish.
Today, I'm going to talk about business and ethics. First, I'll look at what is meant by business ethics. Then, I'll examine the kind of ethical considerations companies need to address, how they can go about doing business in a more ethical way, and look at some examples of ethical business practices. So, what are business ethics and why are they seen as important in today's business climate? Business ethics relate to how a company conducts its business in order to make a profit. Although the primary goal of the company may be to make money, it also recognizes that it has a responsibility towards the society in which it operates. The term corporate social responsibility is often used, and nowadays many companies have strong corporate social responsibility programs designed to help create a prosperous, inclusive society. Now I'll look at some basic ethical considerations that a company needs to address. The first area is how the company treats its employees. All employees should be treated fairly and with respect. A company that cares for its workers' welfare will tend to have a happier workforce and a lower turnover of staff. It is also important that workers are recruited on a basis of equal opportunity. The second area is how a company conducts its day-to-day business. In a manufacturing business, This includes how suppliers of raw materials are chosen and treated. A good example of this is the Fair Trade movement. This initiative ensures that small-scale farmers are paid directly and at a fair price for their crops. A company should also look at its policy on paying suppliers and ensure that payments are made on time. Another ethical consideration is the impact the business has on the environment. Manufacturing companies should strive to ensure that production is clean and careful, and look for ways to minimize energy consumption and waste products. Finally, a company can also decide to give something back to the community it operates in. This can be in the form of corporate giving programs, where donations are given to community projects, or by initiating schemes to improve the local community and encouraging employees to work on these schemes.
Hello and welcome to this Learn English Professionals recording brought to you by the British Council. To find out more and to access language activities and audio scripts, visit our Learn English website at www.britishcouncil.org/learnenglish.
Welcome to this week's programme. I have with me in the studio Mark Fletcher, a business angel. Mark, can you explain what a business angel is?
Yes. Well, it sounds like someone who is altruistic, but in fact, a business angel expects to make a good return on their money. We usually invest in startups and small business looking to expand. When the company does well, we expect our capital back with a substantial return. Sometimes we group together to make a syndicated deal.
How do these investments differ from bank loans?
In my case, I like to lend between £10,000 and £100,000 to a business. I don't charge interest, so I'm taking a risk with my money. But within 5 years, I expect to get a good return on this investment, about 50 or 60%.
How do you get your money back?
The company either raises money by floating on the stock market or is sold. I will have an agreement with the owners as to how much of the money raised goes to me.
How do you find a company to invest in?
I belong to a network of business angels, and business owners contact us to find an investor. Typically, they give a presentation to a group of prospective investors, and if anyone likes what they see, they put money into the business.
How do you decide who to invest in?
Oh, I go very much by gut feeling. Of course, I need to see business plans, but if I think the company is producing something that there's a market for, and if I think the owners have the drive and ambition to do well, then I'll put my money in.
Are all the businesses you invest in successful?
No, of course not. If I invest in 10 companies, I expect 3 or 4 to go bust, 2 or 3 to do okay, and a couple to be really good. Those are the ones I make my money on. Earlier this year, I got back 10 times the amount I'd invested in one company. This makes up for the investments where I make a complete loss.
And once you've invested your money, is that it? Or do you have any further involvement in the company?
I'm very much a hands-on investor. Before I became a business angel, I ran several successful businesses, which I then sold on. So I've got plenty of experience, and I like to help companies develop and expand. Sometimes I'll expect to become a director of the company. Other times I concentrate on giving financial advice. The great advantage is that I can see what is happening to my money.
Thanks very much, Mark. Now, if anyone is interested in contacting a business angel, you can find out more on our website.
This recording was brought to you by the British Council. To find out more and to access language activities and audio scripts, visit our Learn English website at www.britishcouncil.org/learnenglish.
Hello and welcome to this Learn English Professionals recording, brought to you by the British Council. To find out more and to access language activities and audio scripts, visit our Learn English website at www.britishcouncil.org/learnenglish.
Business books.
Today I'll be talking to the author and business guru, Jared McCall. Jared has written a number of books on business subjects, and his latest, just out in paperback, is called The One-Armed Monkey, 10 Types of New Product. In this book, Jared looks at the way in which an estimated 90% of new products fail within a year of being launched onto the market, and tries to analyse why so many products do fail, and why that 10% succeed. Jared, if I may ask, why do you think the world needs another business book?
Well, first of all, I'd like to say that my book isn't just another business book. It's certainly not a dry, boring textbook, but something which, I hope, even the general reader will find of interest.
You're aiming at the bestseller lists, then?
Of course. Any author would be.
So, what is it that makes your book so special?
Well, instead of just analysing statistics and showing graphs, I use case studies, actual stories of products that failed or were successful. And often, the story of these products is an entertaining read.
Yes, I agree with you there. There's a strong narrative, and you're a good writer.
Thanks.
But, and I'm afraid there's a but here,
There always is.
even though I found the book an entertaining read, I'm not sure your use of jargon helps.
Jargon.
Yes, I mean the specialised language you use.
Well, I aimed to reach all readers, so I don't actually use that much jargon.
What I'm thinking of is the names you give each of the 10 product types you describe. The one-armed monkey is what you call a product which will fail.
Yes, after the disastrous toy.
And you call a successful product a silver shadow, and so on and so on.
OK, I take your point. But using these terms, these names, isn't really jargon. I'm just trying to find a quick way to describe different types of product. If you use names like this, it helps people to remember and to identify their product ideas and make difficult concepts clearer and easier to understand.
So you want to help product developers make sure their product isn't a one-armed monkey, but a silver shadow.
Exactly. And where my book is different to a lot of other ones on the market now is that it gives practical advice on how to make sure your new product succeeds.
OK, but I found that all these terms were actually making things more difficult to understand.
Well, ultimately, the market will judge if people agree with what I'm saying or find it useful or inspirational. Then they'll buy the book and start to use the terms. Remember that a phrase like long tail, for example, is quite a recent term.
Sure, but to me, long tail describes something which is a real phenomenon. What I'm not sure about is the 10 different product types described in your book and the use of trying to label and name them all.
I think if you look carefully at the stories I tell, the case histories, you'll find that the names are actually quite useful guides as to why the products succeeded or failed.
OK. Jared McCall, thank you very much. And I certainly hope your book proves to be a silver shadow and not a one-armed monkey.
Thank you.
This recording was brought to you by the British Council. To find out more and to access language activities and audio scripts, visit our Learn English website at www.britishcouncil.org/Learn English.
Hello and welcome to this Learn English Professionals recording brought to you by the British Council. To find out more and to access language activities and audio scripts, visit our Learn English website at www.britishcouncil.org/Learn English.
The car industry.
Hello there. I'm talking to Lee Smith, an automobile sector specialist.
Hello.
Lee, I'm not an expert, but it often seems to me that cars now are becoming more standardised.
How do you mean?
Well, basically, if I look at the traffic passing me as I drive to work each morning, well, All the cars look the same.
Yeah. Sure, you're not entirely wrong. Developments in technology and fuel efficiency is a major factor here, mean that in some ways standard design is inevitable.
Companies are all finding the best way to design a car.
Exactly. At least a car that the market wants right now.
But you're here to tell us about an exception.
Yeah. The other factor in this standardisation, as you call it, is that, quite simply, even though there are still a lot of brand names on cars, there are actually very few automobile manufacturers left.
Really?
Yeah. Toyota, General Motors, Ford and Volkswagen have around 50% of the global market.
Oh.
Even classic British names such as Rolls-Royce and Aston Martin are owned by multinationals, BMW and Ford, respectively. But there is at least one British company who remain proudly independent.
And who's that?
They're called Morgan.
And what's so different about them?
Well, they're a historic company, founded as long ago as 1913, and they've always concentrated exclusively on sports cars.
Like, say, Ferrari?
No, because Ferrari are part of Fiat, one of the other major manufacturers.
Oh.
Morgan have never tried to go commercial on a big scale.
Is that viable, though? How can they compete against such giants?
By doing what they do best, and not changing in a changing world.
They're still making the same cars they made in 1913?
Well, no, of course not. But the style of the cars has remained strikingly constant.
They are very unusual looking, aren't they? Especially these new models.
Yeah, the Aeromax and Life cars. They have a design which is both traditional and very modern.
Yeah, they look quite futuristic, actually.
Exactly. And that's only the outside. The Life car, for example...
why is it called Life?
Life stands for lightweight, fuel efficient.
OK, but surely all cars today claim to be light and fuel efficient.
They do, but none of them like this one.
How come?
Well, like all Morgan cars, the frame is made of wood.
Wood?
Yes. Not only is it lightweight, the company claim that it is also safer.
Safer?
Yes.
So why don't more companies make wood frame cars?
One simple reason. It's not cheap.
OK, I see.
Added to that, the Life car uses a fuel cell.
Is that a kind of battery?
Yes, kind of, but it allows for better performance.
Interesting. Why aren't these cars everywhere, then?
Well, as I already mentioned, they're not cheap. A basic model will cost you around £30,000, while top-of-the-range models can cost up to £200,000.
Phew.
And that's not all. There's a one-year waiting list for these cars.
Why so long?
They're all entirely hand-built.
Wow.
Yeah. The company have ignored advice from consultants and experts and continue to produce their cars the way they want.
Very brave.
And very successful, apparently.
Would you say, then, that Morgan is an exception or the way forward?
That's a difficult question to answer. There's no way Ford are going to restructure themselves along those lines.
A year before you can buy a Mondeo.
No way. But for a niche market, Morgan are a company to watch.
Lee, thanks.
Thank you.
This recording was brought to you by the British Council. To find out more and to access language activities and audio scripts, visit our Learn English website at www.britishcouncil.org/Learn English.
Hello and welcome to this Learn English Professionals recording, brought to you by the British Council. To find out more and to access language activities and audio scripts, visit our Learn English website at www.britishcouncil.org/Learn English.
Cinema and politics.
You may have heard recently about what is being called the return of political cinema, following recent releases such as Munich and The Constant Gardener. So today I'm going to look at what political cinema is and give a little overview of the history of political filmmaking in Hollywood. First of all, what do I mean by political cinema or political films? To me, the terms refer to films that make people aware of political or social situations. To give a recent example, the film Hotel Rwanda caused many people to take notice of the political situation in Rwanda for perhaps the first time. The dramatic imagery of film can often be far more powerful than news reports. For many, the heyday of political filmmaking was the 1970s. Watergate, the Vietnam War, and mainstream actors with social consciences such as Jane Fonda, Robert Redford and Warren Beatty made for a number of political films. Think of All the President's Men, which detailed the scale of corruption in Watergate, or Apocalypse Now, which graphically portrayed the horror of the Vietnam War. Political filmmaking didn't start in the 70s, though. Back in the 1940s and 50s, Hollywood produced films detailing social problems such as unemployment and alcoholism. In 1967, Guess Who's Coming to Dinner, a comedy about a white couple whose daughter brings home a black fiancé, covered what was then pretty much a taboo subject, that of interracial relationships. As I said, the 70s saw a sudden increase in political films, which carried on to some extent into the 80s, with the release of films such as Gandhi, which won 8 Oscars, and Cry Freedom, another Attenborough film, this time about Steve Biko, a South African activist who died in police custody. The 90s is not generally seen as a good decade for political cinema. Schindler's List, Spielberg's powerful film about the Holocaust, stands out, as does Malcolm X, a biography of the black American activist. Which brings us to the present decade, and the so-called revival of the political...
This recording was brought to you by the British Council. To find out more and to access language activities and audio scripts, visit our Learn English website at www.britishcouncil.org/Learn English.
Hello, and welcome to this recording brought to you by the British Council.
Cities, cities, cities. For the first time ever, more people now live in cities than in the countryside.
Hello, and welcome to Visions of the Future. This week, we're discussing the growth of cities in the 21st century. In the studio, we have the environmentalist Sue Shaw and Masako Ito, an urban planner based in Tokyo. For the first time in human history, more people now live in cities than in the countryside. Today, Tokyo is the world's largest conurbation. The combined cities of the Tokyo Bay Area now have a population of 28 million. Masako, how has Tokyo solved the problem of transport?
Well, many Tokyo residents would say that the city's transport problems have not been solved. Tokyo is different from most cities in developing countries because it has many suburban railway lines. These lines bring commuters to the Yamamote Line, the circular line around the city centre, and to the city's 12 subway lines.
Rail travel seems to be the answer.
Yes, it is really. In addition, there are expensive tolls on the city's urban expressways. Train travel is 1.5 times faster than travel by car, and city centre parking is very expensive.
Right. So Tokyoites don't use cars that much?
Well, you know, before you can buy a car in Tokyo, you must prove that you have a place to park it. Parking spaces can cost as much as apartments to rent. New roads are built in Tokyo, but priority is given to new train lines.
So the train is king in Tokyo, Sue. Anything to add?
Tokyo is a good model for our future megacities to aspire to, but, and this is a big but, Japan is a wealthy country, and most of the rail system was present before Tokyo developed, or was built as the city grew. Most of our new megacities will be in Asia and Africa, where the resources to develop a transport infrastructure similar to Tokyo's just aren't present.
What can these cities do?
They must do all they can to stop the car from becoming the main means of transport. Cars bring pollution, and the construction of new roads can destroy the fabric of a city as they divide communities and lead to the building of new types of housing, usually high apartment blocks.
So,
Integrated transport systems that take into consideration local factors are the answer. Take Kolkata, for example. There, hand-pulled rickshaws are being included in the plans for the transport system alongside buses and trams. Bangkok and Manila have built overhead rail systems. These are cheaper and quicker to build than expensive underground subway lines.
So for the future megacities, the message is forget about cars.
Most definitely.
I'd agree with that too.
We hope you've enjoyed this recording. To find out more about the British Council and the services we offer, contact your local British Council office or go to www.britishcouncil.org. Bye for now. Hello and welcome to this Learn English Professionals recording, brought to you by the British Council. To find out more and to access language activities and audio scripts, visit our Learn English website at www.britishcouncil.org/Learn English.
Dr. Grant, could you explain in a few words what the greenhouse effect actually means?
Well, in simple terms, the sun heats the Earth's surface and the Earth radiates energy back out into space. Some of the radiation gets trapped in the atmosphere by greenhouse gases. This trapped radiation warms the atmosphere and some of it goes back down to the Earth, making it hotter than normal. This is the greenhouse effect.
So, is carbon dioxide the problem?
Yes, and other gases too. Methane being released from paddy fields, commercial oil and gas from landfills, vegetation left to rot without oxygen. These days, there are more greenhouse gases than ever because of human activities, and especially the burning of fossil fuels.
What kind of problems do scientists foresee?
Well, ice caps melting and sea levels rising mean that eventually cities like London, New York, Sydney and Tokyo will be submerged. This is difficult to imagine, of course.
It seems incredible. No wonder scientists are worried.
Well, some scientists are optimistic. They believe that positive feedbacks from ice clouds and their water vapour could have an impact on global warming. Other scientists are more sceptical. They suspect that we have been wrong in our initial analyses of the situation and might need to go back to the drawing board.
So, are you saying that some scientists don't believe in the greenhouse effect?
No, I wouldn't go that far. In fact, without the greenhouse effect, the planet would be frozen and no life forms would exist.
Is there anything that could protect us from global warming?
I'm glad you asked me that. Yes, volcanoes. When a volcano erupts, it throws debris up into the stratosphere. This protects the Earth from solar energy by scattering the sunlight. Of course, the best thing that we can do is to address the problem seriously on a world level. That's where the Kyoto Treaty enters the picture. If all of the governments in the world would commit themselves to making a real effort to work together on this issue, we might be able to slow down the process and work out a solution.
So, how worried do we need to be?
That depends. First of all, global warming isn't going to affect all areas of the planet to the same degree. Things like the collapse of glaciers take hundreds of years, so we are talking about a slow process here.
Slow enough for us to do something to prevent a catastrophe?
Well, let's hope so.
This recording was brought to you by the British Council. To find out more and to access language activities and audio scripts, visit our Learn English website at www.britishcouncil.org/Learn English.
Hello and welcome to this Learn English Professionals recording, brought to you by the British Council. To find out more and to access language activities and audio scripts, visit our Learn English website at www.britishcouncil.org/Learn English.
Work skills.
Coaching people.
Pretty useful. I'm going to spend the last few minutes summing up the main points and offering you some coaching tips that hopefully you'll find useful. Whether you're just starting out as a coach or whether you want to improve your coaching skills and learn to be a better coach. First of all, set up regular meetings, one-to-one meetings. That way, you'll develop a relationship with your employee and you'll be providing him with an opportunity to share his ideas with you. Schedule a series of meetings in advance. You might have to change the date or the time of a meeting, but at least then your employee, or coachee, will see that you are serious. Don't fall into the trap of comparing the performance of the person you are coaching with the performance of somebody else. Each individual should be treated as a unique situation. This will affect your training style. You should adapt and adjust accordingly. Think carefully about the starting date and the finishing date. Never start coaching until you have built up a relationship with your employee, and don't stop working on that relationship until the coaching stops. Don't sit across the table from the person you are coaching. This creates an adversarial relationship. Sit side by side or at right angles to each other. It's also a good idea to use a neutral place and not your office. Rather than base a coaching conversation around an employee's weakness or a problem, try approaching it in a positive way. Use the opportunities to build upon the coachee's strengths and explore ways of profiting from opportunities. Above all, listen. Listen to everything your coachee has to say and listen well. Listen actively and attentively and try not to intrude with your own ideas. It is the coachee who sets the agenda. It's your role to listen and to help him reach his full potential. Similarly, you should avoid giving advice. Instead, just try to provide information that the person will find useful for planning their next course of action. Watch your language. Try to avoid negatives like, "I don't think," or "you shouldn't." Praise and encourage as much as possible. Use expressions like, "What if we tried to," or "Another option might be." Similarly, watch your body language. You must avoid demotivating your coachee at all costs. Finally, never coach when you are upset or in a bad mood. You will end up taking things out on your coachee, and that is counterproductive and unfair. Wait until you feel calm and are able to focus 100% on the task at hand, even if this means postponing a meeting. Right, I think that's everything, so I'll open the floor to any questions.
This recording was brought to you by the British Council. To find out more and to access language activities and audio scripts, visit our Learn English website at www.britishcouncil.org/Learn English. Hello and welcome to this Learn English Professionals recording, brought to you by the British Council. To find out more and to access language activities and audio scripts, visit our Learn English website at www.britishcouncil.org/Learn English.
Work skills. What are competencies?
Thank you. Today's lecture is called Competencies, Important for the Business and the Individual. I'm going to give you a brief introduction first, then I'll look at competencies from a business perspective, showing how HR uses them to make the business more efficient. After that, we'll look at how competencies can help individuals. I'll make a few short points to sum up, and then, if there's time, I'll answer any questions that you might have. Competencies is a buzzword today. When I started working in the world of business, competencies were unheard of. They existed, of course, but we hadn't given them a name. and we certainly didn't divide them and subdivide them in the way that we do today. A competency is a personal characteristic that describes what you do well, and usually what you do better than everyone around you. Everybody is good at something, so everybody has competencies. What's important is how we use them, both at a business level and as individuals. Now, businesses exist to make money. The goal of people who run businesses is to increase productivity and make more money. Over recent years, organisations have seen the benefits of using competencies for human resource management purposes. In the past, we used to focus on whether or not a worker was successfully completing his or her work activities. If the answer was yes, then everything was okay. But sometimes a worker will successfully complete his activities without affecting outputs or results at all. And what's the point in that? Where's that going to get the company? Or the employee, for that matter? Organisations need to give their clients or customers exactly what they want. They need results. Now, when competencies are tied to the organisation's culture, they enable them to achieve their full potential. If results are clearly defined, then it's easy to identify the competencies needed to achieve them. HR departments spend a lot of time and effort on identifying the competencies that are required in order to achieve the results that are desirable. And then they spend more time finding the individual or individuals who are able to demonstrate that they already possess those competencies. Sometimes the appropriate candidate is already working for the company, but in the wrong department. Sometimes HR has to look outside the organisation to find the best man or woman for the job. As an individual, whether you're working or looking for a job, it's essential that you're able to identify your own competencies so that the people in the right places know that you are a potential candidate, or indeed the best candidate for the job. It's a two-sided thing. If you don't identify specific competencies and let people know that you have them, then how will HR know that you're the right person for the job? If you're looking for a job, then you need to be very careful about which competencies you include in the CVs you're sending out. If you're already inside a company but want to move on or up, then you have to make sure your direct line managers are fully aware of any competencies that you've developed since the last time they looked.
This recording was brought to you by the British Council. To find out more and to access language activities and audio scripts, visit our Learn English website at www.britishcouncil.org/Learn English.
Hello and welcome to this Learn English Professionals recording, brought to you by the British Council. To find out more and to access language activities and audio scripts, visit our Learn English website at www.britishcouncil.org/Learn English.
Complaining.
Good morning, Mr. Johnson. How can I help you?
Well, I'd like to talk to you about Tim Bond, the department manager.
What seems to be the problem?
Well, ever since Sandra left the department, I feel like I've been targeted to do all her work, as well as mine. Tim has made me work overtime. I'm expected to attend too many meetings, and I seem to be spending a lot of my time doing unnecessary paperwork.
I'm sorry to hear that.
And on top of that, I'd specifically asked if I could leave early last Friday, as I'd done a lot of overtime during the week. But we had a deadline on Friday afternoon, and even though I'd finished my specific work, I was expected to help other colleagues finish their work too.
But surely that is a positive sign showing that Mr. Bond has a lot of trust in you, in getting you to help other colleagues.
Yes, but I feel like I'm being singled out. Other colleagues get to leave early, and they don't have such a lot of work to do.
So you feel he's been making unrealistic demands on you?
Yes, absolutely.
Do you think it's because Mr. Bond is unaware of what you're doing?
Well, he never seems to ask us to do a job. He just delegates. And that's another thing. He never listens.
Right. have you approached Mr. Bond about this particular problem?
I've tried to approach him, but whenever I go to his office, he is either in meetings or he is never there. It seems like he just has no time for us.
Well, at this stage, it would be better if you approached him directly. If nothing else, showing that you've tried to solve the problem yourself before you take it further makes it clear that you're not just a complainer and can boost your credibility. Why don't you send an email requesting a meeting with him in private?
I'd be a bit worried about his reaction. I wouldn't know what to say.
Well, firstly, you'll need to plan what you are going to talk about before going ahead with a meeting. You can always take notes to which you can refer. This shows that you have considered what you need to discuss.
OK.
This is obviously a delicate situation, so be very careful not to criticise, as this could bring on a defensive reaction. You need to be diplomatic when you speak to him. If after you have spoken to him in a rational way you still find he is being unreasonable, come and speak to us and we can arrange a meeting between the three of us. But do remember you need to have evidence for us to be able to take further action.
OK. I'll send him an email now to request a meeting, and we'll see what happens from there. Thanks for your advice.
Good luck, and let us know the outcome.
This recording was brought to you by the British Council. To find out more and to access language activities and audio scripts, visit our Learn English website at www.britishcouncil.org/learnenglish.
Hello and welcome to this Learn English Professionals recording brought to you by the British Council. To find out more and to access language activities and audio scripts, visit our Learn English website at www.britishcouncil.org/learnenglish.
Dealing with conference calls.
Good morning. Welcome to the Softcell Incorporated First Quarter 2008 Quarterly Results Conference Call. At this time, all participants are in listen-only mode, but the floor will be open for your questions following the introductory remarks. I'd now like to turn the conference over to Ms. Marie Tascon, Senior Director of Investor Relations. Please go ahead, madam.
Good morning. Thanks for joining us. Speaking today is Softcell CFO Peter Goody, joined by COO Jim W. Brooke for the Q&A session with analysts. Please note that the information you'll hear during our discussion today may consist of forward-looking statements regarding revenue and margins. Actual results could differ materially from our forecast. To view the supporting slides while listening, log on to softcell.com/investor. With that, I'll turn the call over to Peter Goody.
Thank you, Marie. It's good to be on this call to report our best quarter ever, with the highest revenue and earnings in Softcell's history. Revenue grew 35% year over year to $9.6 billion, an increase of almost $2.5 billion over the previous December quarter's record-breaking results. Which, ladies and gentlemen, brings us to our final results. In closing, we believe these outstanding results reflect the excellence of our innovative products. We are very enthusiastic about our announcements for 2008, including new SoftTalk software and an updated SoftPro.
With that, I'd like to open the call to questions. Please limit yourselves to one question only.
Our first question will come from the line of Jane Bratworth with Morgan Stanley.
On the SoftTalk expectations for 2008, are you guys providing any type of update today?
We remain very sure about hitting the 10 million goal for 2008.
The next question comes from Ahmed Jamal with Merrill Lynch.
Jim, in terms of the SoftTalk rollout internationally, there's been a lot of talk about China. Anything specific relative to the China market?
We open our first stores in China this year. We'll also be rolling out additional European countries during 2008.
Next question from Kurt Abramski with Deutsche Bank.
Could you give us any either quantitative or qualitative commentary on how European soft talk uptake is faring versus your US experience?
Kurt, you know, we just launched in France in November and in the UK and Germany a bit earlier. So we have very limited experience, but we are very happy with all the launches so far.
The next question comes from Jeanne Beauvoir with Credit Suisse.
Peter, is it too early to offer a little more color on the soft talk seasonality question? Your guidance obviously implies seasonality for the whole company.
We've not yet been through a March quarter with soft talk, so we don't have any history to go by, as we do with other products. We can report in April, but I am able to comment.
Time for just one final question.
And that will come from Tim Liu with Goldman Sachs.
Yeah, I'd like to ask you, Peter, about your overall market guidance. It's good to hear you're not seeing any weakness. I understand your products are unlikely to be in the most economically exposed segment. But is there likely to be some exposure if we see, for example, a recession in Europe as well as the US? In your 10% growth forecast, have you assumed some kind of economic weakening within Europe specifically?
The 10% is based pretty much on a very concrete situation, how we see the trends. It's something that we feel is quite solid.
Thanks very much, Tim, and thanks to everyone. A replay of today's call will be available as a webcast on softcell.com/investor and via telephone. The number for the telephone replay is 989-313-2111 and the passcode is 5237883. Replays will be available at 5 p.m. Pacific time today.
Ladies and gentlemen, this concludes today's presentation. We thank everyone for your participation and have a wonderful day.
This recording was brought to you by the British Council. To find out more and to access language activities and audio scripts, visit our Learn English website at www.britishcouncil.org/Learn English.
Hello and welcome to this Learn English Professionals recording, brought to you by the British Council. To find out more and to access language activities and audio scripts, visit our Learn English website at www.britishcouncil.org/Learn English.
Art and Business is an organisation that develops creative partnerships between business and the arts. Peter Jones is going to talk about the company's ideas and tell us about some of their success stories. Peter, maybe you could begin by telling our listeners why Art and Business was created.
Well, in the 21st century, productivity is no longer a matter of machines. The success of a company depends on its people and on the creativity of its people. It makes sense that the way to increase productivity is to stimulate creativity.
And what better way to stimulate creativity than through reading books?
Exactly. Every reader knows that a good book can stimulate the imagination and the intellect, get you thinking along lines you might not have thought of before, open up new worlds.
So, have you had any help in setting up the project?
Yes. The London Libraries Agency and an organisation called the Reading Partnership work with us on this project. We're trying to use the power of the written word to motivate staff in the workplace. In a recent survey, 700 business leaders were asked which book had inspired them and had a positive influence on their career. They were able to choose any kind of book, any kind at all. Only about 40% chose a business book. Most people chose a work of fiction, a novel, a play, or even poetry.
How can reading help somebody to become a more creative worker?
Successful managers need to be well-rounded people. They need active imaginations. When they interpret fictional scenarios, they are using their creativity. Readers combine imaginative skills with critical and analytical skills.
Are we talking about the right and left sides of the brain?
Yes. Our logical left side of the brain interprets the language of a book. The creative right side looks at the forms of expression. The left side analyses the plot, while the right side is more interested in the relationships between characters, the emotional aspects.
How does this transfer to the world of business?
Creative ideas make businesses more competitive. Shared reading experiences improve communication and morale at work.
Can you give listeners some examples of how this scheme has been brought successfully into the workplace?
Employees at W.H. Smith have stuck poems and quotations above their desks for inspiration.
Well, W.H. Smith deals in books. What about other examples?
The telecommunications company Orange set up a project called Talk Books at Work. They discovered that encouraging employees to read helped them to develop their linguistic and interpersonal skills. Marks & Spencer has set up reading groups at work. The groups cut across the usual hierarchies, and working relationships have improved greatly.
This recording was brought to you by the British Council. To find out more and to access language activities and audio scripts, visit our Learn English website at www.britishcouncil.org/Learn English.
Hello and welcome to this Learn English Professionals recording brought to you by the British Council. To find out more and to access language activities and audio scripts, visit our Learn English website at www.britishcouncil.org/Learn English.
Good afternoon. Today on Crime Check, we're going to talk about repeat victims. People who are victims of crime more than once. First of all, we bring you the sad story of Ruth and Harold Saunders from Hull, who have had their house burgled no fewer than 8 times in the last 3 years. Worth an entry in the Guinness Book of Records, you might think. But for Ruth and Harold, it's no joke. Ruth, why do you think you've been burgled so many times?
I wish I knew. It's a nightmare. We bought this house because it looks out onto the playing fields, and we thought it was the perfect house for our retirement.
When were you first burgled?
3 years ago, just a week after we'd moved in. It was as if the burglars were waiting for us.
Do you feel sorry that you moved there now?
Oh, definitely. If we had known we were going to have this sort of trouble, we wouldn't be living here. We would have chosen somewhere safer. But now we can't even sell the house because everyone knows the burglars like it. No one will buy it. We can't escape from this neighbourhood. We're just waiting for the next break-in.
Do you know who the burglars are?
We think so, but we can never prove anything. You see, people can watch the house from the playing fields, and there are a number of youths who we see watching the house. They hang around there smoking in the afternoons. I'm frightened to go to the shops in case they break in while I'm away.
Have you tried calling the police?
Oh, yes, several times. But these youths always get away by running into the woods on the other side of the playing fields, and the police don't bother to go after them.
And what have you had stolen?
Oh, all sorts of things on different occasions. They never take much, but they always seem to come back. They've taken the television twice. If we'd known they were going to come back, we wouldn't have bought a new television after the first burglary. But a week after we bought it, the burglars broke in again.
What else have they taken?
Oh, apart from the television and the video, nothing very valuable. But then we don't have anything else which is very valuable. It's annoying, really, and they do a lot of damage when they break in. I sometimes think we should leave a door open. If we left the door open, at least they could come in without doing any damage.
So what are you going to do about this situation?
What can we do about it? We'd be happier if we'd stayed in our old house. If we still lived there, I'm sure we wouldn't have been burgled once. We were there for 40 years without a single problem.
Marilyn Brooks, you are Chief Crime Prevention Officer for South Yorkshire Police. Is there really nothing they can do?
No, there are things they can do, though I must say first that I do feel sorry for them.
Well, what can they do?
If I were them, I'd have had a burglar alarm put in straight away. In fact, I'm surprised the insurance company hasn't insisted on that already.
Well, they have said that, but we can't afford one of those. We only have our pension, and burglar alarms cost thousands of pounds.
Well, have you thought of putting a burglar alarm box on the wall? That puts some thieves off. Also, you should talk to the neighbours and ask them to keep an eye on your home when you're out.
But why do the burglars keep coming back to the Saunders house? I mean, 8 times is a lot, isn't it?
Well, there are several things here. Obviously, it is easy to watch the house from the playing fields. And also, burglars tend to talk amongst themselves. They tell each other which houses are easy to break into and what things the houses still have in them. Also, they wait a few months until they think the owners have replaced the things that were stolen. After all, burglars prefer to steal something that's brand new. And another thing you have to consider is that they might...
This recording was brought to you by the British Council. To find out more and to access language activities and audio scripts, visit our Learn English website at www.britishcouncil.org/learnenglish.
Hello, and welcome to this recording brought to you by the British Council.
Conservation and restoration of cultural heritage.
Hi, Lynn. How's it going?
Oh, not so bad.
How was your summer? Didn't you go on some field trip in Eastern Europe or something?
That's right. 6 weeks on my hands and knees digging for treasure.
Did you find any?
Not much. Lots of pottery fragments, some bones, a few tools.
I hope you got paid for it.
You must be joking. It was run by the local university research group. They don't have any money. You make your way there and pay for your own accommodation and meals.
So you were cheap labour for the professors then?
Oh, don't be so cynical. No, they were really helpful. I learnt a lot.
Oh, yeah? Like what?
Well, first there was the mapping of the site. They used digital photography and GIS, which I hadn't done before. Then there's the excavation itself, scraping away for hours, which can get a bit tedious, and it all has to be recorded. The location and description of every artefact is put into a database.
Don't you have to be careful when you're excavating? I'd be afraid of breaking something priceless.
Oh, sure. You have to move the earth away very slowly with a trowel, sometimes even a toothbrush. But everything you find has a story to tell. Pollen samples tell you about forest clearance and crop cultivation. Animal teeth and bones showed they kept livestock. Looking at stone axes can tell you what sort of animals they hunted. The best part of the dig was the midden.
What's that?
It's where they dumped domestic waste. It contains all sorts of treasures. The highlight for me was finding a small clay figure. Imagine holding something in your hand that was made by a human being 6,000 years ago.
So, have you expanded the sum of human knowledge?
I think so. The site is giving them a lot of new information about that part of the Black Sea coast in Neolithic times. And it'll be a big tourist attraction when they open it up to the public in a couple of years. They've got plans to get some international funding and make it into an archaeological park. But they'll still preserve the landscape and the character of the place.
Will you get your name in the brochure?
Well, you never know.
We hope you've enjoyed this recording. To find out more about the British Council and the services we offer, contact your local British Council office or go to www.britishcouncil.org. Bye for now. Hello and welcome to this Learn English Professionals recording, brought to you by the British Council. To find out more and to access language activities and audio scripts, visit our Learn English website at www.britishcouncil.org/learnenglish.
Ah, Rachel, good to see you again. What can I do to help you?
Well, as you know, I run a small company manufacturing children's clothes.
Yes, and it's doing rather well, if I remember correctly.
Yes. I've recently increased production, and I'm very happy with my sales figures. In fact, I've had some interest from overseas retailers wanting to sell my clothes.
Ah.
I'd also like to be able to buy materials from abroad. What I'd like to know is if I can make and accept payments in foreign currencies.
We offer full foreign exchange services, so there shouldn't be a problem. We have an extensive foreign correspondent bank network, so funds can easily be transferred worldwide.
So this bank is part of a network of foreign banks?
That's right. The advantage is that payments can be made and received quickly and efficiently, and at the lowest cost to you and your suppliers and purchasers. You can do this by wire transfer. It's the fastest and safest way to transmit money around the world. Using our services, you can send international wires in foreign currency. You pay lower fees than for international sterling wires, and you reduce risk because you lock in the exchange rate and know the full cost of the transaction before the wire is sent.
How exactly does this reduce risk?
Currency exchange rates fluctuate, so if you send a wire in sterling, you won't know the exact exchange rate applicable when the wire is received and the funds converted into the foreign currency. You could find yourself under or overpaying your supplier. Using the supplier's currency may also mean you can negotiate more favourable pricing of materials.
I see. And the same applies for my customers. If I use their currency, I won't be in danger of over or undercharging them.
Exactly.
What happens if a foreign customer wants to pay by cheque?
We offer foreign currency cheque conversions for a wide range of countries. We can even offer next-day credit for many countries, so you don't have to wait weeks for the cheque to clear. All you have to do is complete a foreign cash letter agreement and send it, along with the cheque and a deposit slip, to our foreign cheque processing centre.
So I shouldn't have any problems dealing with foreign currencies.
No.
Now, I've got another question.
This recording was brought to you by the British Council. To find out more and to access language activities and audio scripts, visit our Learn English website at www.britishcouncil.org/learnenglish.
Hello and welcome to this Learn English Professionals recording, brought to you by the British Council. To find out more and to access language activities and audio scripts, visit our Learn English website at www.britishcouncil.org/learnenglish.
Work skills. Customer service orientation.
Good morning. My secretary told me that you had some things to discuss with me, so how can I help?
Well, firstly, thank you for seeing us, and we are sorry to trouble you, but we would like to complain about one of the members of staff in your courses office. She has been very rude when dealing with our queries about our exam results.
And this is not the first time it has happened. It is not only exam results, but there are other times too, when I have not been happy with her attitude.
Oh dear, I'm sorry to hear that. Can you be a bit more specific with what exactly has happened?
Well, my tutor told me I could collect my results until 2 p.m. from the courses office. And on our classroom wall, there is a big notice which says that the office is open every day until 2. However, when I got there yesterday at 1:45, the courses office assistant told me she was closing early. When I told her that I could not come back later, when the office is reopened at 4, she just replied, "It's not my problem." I felt quite offended by her attitude, and this is not the first time she has replied in this rude manner.
And when I went in with a query about my results, she started to argue with me that she hadn't received our results. She was very direct, and then she went to answer the phone and told me to come back another time.
Yes, that reminds me of the time when I had to wait for assistance for 10 minutes because she was talking on the phone to her friend, talking about the weekend.
I'm sorry, but that is not professional at all.
Right. Well, thank you for voicing your concerns. I'm very sorry you've had these problems.
Well, it's not only us who have had problems. Other students have expressed their concerns too about her rudeness and that she has given out wrong results to wrong students. She just reads them from the list on the computer but doesn't check them. It happened to one of our classmates who was expected to have top exam results, but he was told he had failed. When he went to query it with his tutor, he discovered he had passed, but the person who was next to him on the list had failed.
Well, I'm really surprised to hear that you've had such negative experiences.
I don't think it projects a positive image for the college, especially as potential students could be put off by her negativity.
Well, I am glad that you've brought this matter to my attention, and I suggest you leave it with me. I will have a word with the person concerned and her manager.
We hope you can resolve the problem. I think the least she can do is smile when she sees a student.
Yes, and it really bothers me when she doesn't put our needs first. If she is doing some work at her desk, she will not attend to us until she has finished. We often have to wait for at least 5 minutes.
I suggest you leave it with me, and I'll see what I can do. In the meantime, if you have any other concerns, please come and see me again. This is obviously a matter I need to take seriously, since, as you yourselves have suggested, it can affect the image of our college, and our good reputation is very important to us.
Thanks. We hope it can be resolved soon.
Absolutely.
Thanks.
This recording was brought to you by the British Council. To find out more and to access language activities and audio scripts, visit our Learn English website at www.britishcouncil.org/learnenglish.
Hello, and welcome to this recording brought to you by the British Council.
Change management.
Hi, Sue. How are things?
Fine, yeah.
OK, now, about the change in your work routine, you're going to work Saturdays from next month.
Yes, but why should I have to work on Saturdays? No one's told me why this is necessary.
I'm sorry, this should have been explained to you. We get a lot of people calling now on Saturdays for information about our products. It's important that we answer these questions. Is that OK? Any more questions?
No. OK.
Great. Well, how's your course coming along? You're learning how to make websites.
The course is great. It's not that difficult. I'm helping my son make a website at home. It's fun.
Great. You'll be able to work on our site soon then.
Sure. What's happening in the other departments? Is someone there working on Saturdays too?
I'm afraid I can't tell you that at the moment. Because they're different departments, I can't say, really.
Are there any other courses I can take after the website designer course finishes?
There are one or two that could be useful. Let's talk again about this once you've finished the web course.
OK. You know, Bob, I'd like to ask you something. It's good that you take the time to talk to me about my work and things. But don't you think it'd be a good idea to talk things through together? You know, have a meeting with everyone in our department, see what everybody thinks, all together. If we talk things through together, I think we could come up with some great ideas on how to improve things here.
I agree, Sue. It would be good for everyone to meet together, especially now that we've got so many changes coming along. You know, the problem is that we haven't got a room big enough for us all to meet together, so...
It was just an idea.
We hope you've enjoyed this recording. To find out more about the British Council and the services we offer, contact your local British Council office or go to www.britishcouncil.org. Bye for now. Asha, chaos theory seems to be a branch of physics or mathematics. You're an economist, so how does it influence your line of work?
Well, in a number of ways. I'm responsible for financial development programs in many parts of the world, so forecasting long-range trends and making predictions on the basis of present evidence is what I do. Chaos theory was developed by scientists trying to explain the movement of the planets and changes in environmental conditions. Both of these things are also about making long-term predictions on the basis of present evidence.
Are many economists involved in this field?
An increasing number. In the 1990s, a lot of economists began to look at chaos theory as a way of providing models for forecasting.
What kind of models are we talking about here?
Well, that's a good question because, of course, the basic idea of chaos theory is that there aren't any models as such. There aren't guaranteed forms, but rather patterns of change and development.
Doesn't that mean that forecasting is impossible?
No, but it certainly makes it more of a challenge. Mandelbrot, who did the experiment with stock exchange prices, for example, noted that although the outcomes were variable, there were in fact certain constants. What we have to do is make sure we know what these are and take into account all the possible variables.
But do economics and finance work in the same way as weather conditions or the movement of plants?
Well, no, of course not. But there are certain underlying similarities. In the past, people thought of these things as linear systems. Now we know they're not.
What do you mean by linear system?
Well, for example, in a classic linear system, if I do A, then I know that B will happen and C will occur as a result of this, and so on. But according to chaos theory, a number of variables can change what will happen between A and B, and then between B and C.
Sounds complicated.
Yes. Well, it is complicated. There's no escaping that. However, a lot of what chaos theory teaches us is simply about accepting uncertainty. We have to accept uncertainty. We can't guarantee that things will turn out as we planned them when working with complex, non-linear systems, nor sometimes with simple systems.
Hello and welcome to this Learn English Professionals recording brought to you by the British Council. To find out more and to access language activities and audio scripts, visit our Learn English website at www.britishcouncil.org/learnenglish.
Work skills. Decision-making techniques.
So, the 6 thinking hats is a tool that anybody can use when they have to make an important decision. It was created by Edward de Bono. He's got a book with the same title, so if you're interested, you can go away and read that later. The technique makes you look at a decision from a number of different perspectives. It makes you a better decision maker because it forces you to consider points of view that are outside your normal perspective. So what that means is that you start to understand a complex decision, and this is important. It helps you to see opportunities which you might never have seen. We all have different ways of approaching a decision. Some people are rational and positive, others are negative. Then we have the emotional people and the creative or intuitive. This technique teaches us to think like all of these people, mix the strengths of all of them, and then make the best decision. So, we start off with a decision that you have to make. You can do this now if you like. You don't need to tell anyone. Just think of an important decision that you are finding it hard to make. Now, you have to look at the decision while wearing each of the 6 hats. Each thinking hat represents a style of thinking, and each hat is a different colour. Let's have a look at each of them in turn. It will have to be brief, but we can go into more detail in the next training session. With the white hat, you focus on all of the data available. You see what you can learn from the information. You identify gaps in your knowledge, and you do what you can to fill them in. You analyse previous similar cases and try to learn from them. When you are wearing the red hat, you face the decision with intuition and emotion. You follow your gut instinct, and you also think about how other people will react emotionally to your decision. The green hat is the creative hat. This is where you try to think of creative solutions to a problem. There are lots of creative tools that you can use, but we haven't got time to talk about them right now. The yellow hat is your optimist hat. It helps you to see all the benefits of the decision and spot the opportunities that arise from it. Wearing your yellow hat helps you to keep going when things look grim. When you've got the black hat on, you become a pessimist. You are on the defensive. You are cautious and you think of all the things that could go wrong with a particular decision. This is useful because it helps you to identify weak points so that you can eliminate them. Thinking with your black hat on will make your plan stronger. It's the most interesting of the hats for me. That's because I think most successful people are used to thinking positively, and so they can't always see problems in advance. Finally, the blue hat represents control. This is the hat worn by people who chair meetings. When we are running out of ideas in a meeting, the blue hat might tell everybody to put their green hats on. When it's important to consider how a decision will affect the feelings of others, the blue hat will instruct everybody to put their red hats on, and so on. You can use the 6 thinking hats technique alone or in meetings. I'm afraid I haven't got enough time to go into more detail here, but I think I've covered the main ideas. In the next session, we'll look at a practical example.
This recording was brought to you by the British Council. To find out more and to access language activities and audio scripts, visit our Learn English website at www.britishcouncil.org/learnenglish.
Tell me, Mr. Griffin, are diversity risks really still an issue? Aren't companies these days dealing with diversity?
Oh, yes, they are very much an issue. We have come a long way since those days when employers were allowed to discriminate against job candidates just because of their race or their sex. The trouble is, the boundaries of diversity and discrimination are widening. Companies have a lot more to consider than a person's skin colour or a person's gender.
So, can you give listeners an example of what kind of things you are referring to here?
OK, let's see. Well, one growing area of discrimination is ageism. In 1998, companies in the United States had to pay out more than $55 million to employers who had filed age-related discrimination complaints against their companies. That's a lot of money.
Phew. So, how should companies protect themselves from this kind of thing?
Well, first of all, they should think carefully about their recruitment policies, and then they should take out insurance to cover themselves.
Well, isn't that expensive? For the companies, I mean.
No, not as expensive as you might think. These days, most small and medium-sized organisations take out EPLI. That's Employment Practices Liability Insurance. The cost of the insurance has fallen over the years, and if a company isn't covered and loses a discrimination case, well, let's just say this is the cheaper option.
You've mentioned ageism as a growing concern, but what other kinds of diversity should managers be aware of?
Well, you'd probably be surprised to hear about some. discrimination against single people, against married parents, against people who are too tall, too short, too heavy.
Really?
Oh, yes. Security firms are a good example here. They typically state that their employees need to be over or under a certain height or weight. They claim it's necessary for the job. But there have been cases where people have claimed discrimination.
And won?
Sometimes, yes. Then there are people with a criminal background. Employers used to feel justified in turning away job applicants just because they'd been in trouble with the law.
Isn't that still the case?
No, not exactly. The law states that employers can only reject a job applicant with a criminal record if the crime bears a direct relation to the job in question. So, somebody who has served a sentence for, let's say, stealing cars would be all right in a job as a kitchen porter.
And, Mr. Griffin, tell me, how many people actually go through with their threats to sue a company for discrimination?
Well, I haven't got the latest figures for the UK, but in the United States, the Equal Opportunities Commission receive around 85,000 complaints every year. And that figure is rising. Race and sex account for most of the complaints that are filed, but age discrimination is on the increase too.
So, any words of advice for risk managers?
Well, first of all, make sure that you have adequate insurance. Then address the issues of diversity from within the organisation. Get the employees involved. Celebrate the differences and try to build up a reputation as a fair employer. And remember, it is worth investing time and effort in addressing these issues because statistics have shown that you're much more likely to be sued by an employee than a third party.
Mahesh, you trained as a classical Indian musician, but now you spend most of your time playing records in nightclubs. They're two very different things.
Well, yes, they are. The two worlds are very different, but there is something that connects them.
And what's that?
Rhythm. An interest in rhythm. Rhythm is fundamental to everything that I do, whether it's the rhythmic section of a classical Indian raga or some Asian underground electronic beats in a club.
And you mix the two things, don't you?
Yes, I've played live tabla to electronic accompaniment in clubs in Europe.
How has that gone down?
Really well. I think people are getting bored of ordinary clubs and faceless DJs. Some live music is a great addition.
And have you tried DJing for a classical Indian audience, on the other hand?
No, I'm not quite sure the world's ready for that yet. Still, it's an interesting idea.
How are audiences for your music different in India and in Europe?
Well, the classical audiences are far more sedate in Europe than in India.
How do you mean?
Well, in the West, people think they have to respect the music, and to show their respect, they all sit there very quietly, as if they are at a museum or something.
And in India?
People participate much more. They'll clap when they appreciate something and shout when they don't.
Finally, Mahesh, what does the future hold for you?
A new record in the autumn. Then next year I'm looking forward to a new collaboration with some Latin American musicians. I'm always looking for new frontiers.
Hello and welcome to this Learn English Professionals recording, brought to you by the British Council. To find out more and to access language activities and audio scripts, visit our Learn English website at www.britishcouncil.org/Learn English.
Medical English. An interview with a doctor.
Today I'm talking to Rajan Mehta, a retired doctor. Good afternoon, Rajan.
Good afternoon.
Now, you're originally from Mumbai and you came to work as a doctor in the UK. When was this?
In the early 60s, 1962, to be exact.
And why did you come to the UK?
Well, it was quite common in those days. experience of working in the British National Health Service was highly valued in India. I had just finished my medical degree and I thought this would be a good way to get experience. I only intended to stay for 5 years while I completed my postgraduate studies.
So why did you stay longer?
2 reasons, really. The first is that I thoroughly enjoyed working for the NHS. The clinical training I received was fantastic, and I worked alongside some excellent consultants and learned a lot. And the second reason is that I met my wife, who was working as a pediatric nurse.
And so you continued working in the NHS until you retired?
That's correct. First as a pediatrician, and then later I retrained as a GP.
You must have seen a lot of changes in the National Health Service. What was it like when you first came here?
It was excellent. I think that there was a lot of respect for the medical profession, maybe more than there is now, and patients had a lot of faith in their doctors. There weren't so many problems with the long waiting lists, and new advances in areas such as organ transplants made it an exciting profession to be in.
Yes, it must have been. Did you have any problems when you first started working in Britain?
Well, yes. My first placement was in a hospital in the northeast of England, and I had real problems understanding what people were saying to me, which came as quite a shock, as I thought I had rather good English. Eventually, I confessed to a colleague that I sometimes couldn't understand what my patients were saying, and she admitted that she had the same problem, as she came from a different part of the country.
Yes, some regional accents can be quite difficult to understand. One last question. Do you ever regret not returning to India?
No, not really. Of course, I missed my family, but my brother also came to England to live, and I returned quite regularly to visit my parents while they were alive. And I married an English woman and had children here, so England soon became home.
Rajan, thank you very much for coming in and talking to me.
It's been a pleasure.
This recording was brought to you by the British Council. To find out more and to access language activities and audio scripts, visit our Learn English website at www.britishcouncil.org/learnenglish.
Hello, and welcome to this recording brought to you by the British Council.
eBay, a global phenomenon. Why is it so successful?
Welcome, everybody, to today's seminar. If I remember correctly, David, you'll be leading the seminar?
Yes, that's right.
Fine. And how about questions? Shall we keep these to the end, or would you like people to interrupt during your presentation?
Thanks. If anyone has a question, just ask straight away.
Fine. Let's go then.
Right. eBay is an enormously successful company. It's a household word in several countries. In 2005, it had a turnover of $4.55 billion, and it employed 11,600 people. It's achieved all of this in just 11 years. What's the secret of eBay's success? I think the key issue here is that eBay couldn't exist without the internet. You know, there aren't many examples of companies like this. Take Amazon, for example. If you don't feel like switching your computer on, you can always go round to the nearest bookshop. But if you want to sell your old magazines to somebody in Germany, eBay's the only way to do it. Without the net's ability to bring buyers and sellers together from different locations, there would be no eBay. So this is big point number one. Now let's move on to point two. The founders of eBay, Meg Whitman, the CEO, like all of the senior staff, already had a successful business background. She brought in an experienced management team. They had a great idea, but it had to be a great profitable idea. Around this, the importance of profitability, they built their business model. Let's move on to point three, sound business management. Did you hear of eBay during the dot-com boom years? Not a lot. They were busy building their customer base and making money. They didn't feature in stories headlining the excesses of the dot-com boom years. Actually, I'll add another point. Point 4. eBay doesn't produce, sell or ship anything itself. It provides the online marketplace for other people to do this. This gives it enormous financial power.
David, can I ask a question?
Sure.
What difference does that make? The point about eBay not making anything itself?
Well, this means that they can use their capital very effectively. You know, their capital isn't tied up in buildings, factories, warehouses, that sort of thing. Again, their capital isn't tied up in things that are waiting to be sold. They haven't got shops all over the world with sales assistants in them. All this costs. See what I mean?
Sure, I get it now.
Great. Now, the only problem they've run into... Actually, that's not true. They've had a couple of major problems. Anyway, the first problem, they arrived in a couple of key markets too late. This happened in Japan and Hong Kong, where Yahoo's online marketplace had a head start. The other problem, well, it's the sort of thing we've all heard about. Buyers receiving stolen goods, or a product different from the one they thought they'd bought, or no product at all. Sellers putting in false bids to increase the price just before an auction finishes. eBay admits this happens, but says that this sort of thing accounts for a very small percentage of all sales. OK, now I'd like to have a look at just how the company has expanded over the last 11 years.
We hope you've enjoyed this recording. To find out more about the British Council and the services we offer, contact your local British Council office or go to www.britishcouncil.org. Bye for now.
Hello and welcome to this Learn English Professionals recording brought to you by the British Council. To find out more and to access language activities and audio scripts, visit our Learn English website at www.britishcouncil.org/learnenglish.
Starting an e-business.
I've been making wooden toys for my family and friends for quite some time. It was just a hobby at first, but then it started to take over my life. So many people were asking me to make specific things, like a doll's house for a birthday present, that I began to wonder if I could make a living out of it. I approached some shops and department stores, but they weren't interested in stocking my toys unless I could guarantee a regular supply, and I just couldn't produce them quickly enough. I think it was my son who first suggested I set up an internet shop. I hadn't a clue how to go about it, so I started by looking at existing sites selling handmade toys. There were some great sites by people doing a similar thing to me. I wondered if there was something not being provided that I could do, a niche market I could develop. I thought about what people usually ask me to make, and I realised that a lot of people wanted a customised toy. They asked for their child's name painted on it, or wanted it painted particular colours. I hadn't seen anyone offering this kind of service. The next step was to think of a name for my business. By then, I had read quite a bit of advice about setting up internet companies, and I knew I would have to register a domain name. I got all my family involved, trying to think up a name that would be easy to remember. Every time we thought of a good one, I searched for it on the internet, and sure enough, someone had already got it. I was getting quite frustrated when my sister suggested treetotoy.com. I checked, and to my amazement, it hadn't been registered. I tried several searches on the internet. After all, I didn't want to discover that another company had the same name. They could take legal action against me. Then I registered the domain name, and I was ready to start designing my website.
This recording was brought to you by the British Council. To find out more and to access language activities and audio scripts, visit our Learn English website at www.britishcouncil.org/learnenglish.
Hello and welcome to this Learn English Professionals recording brought to you by the British Council. To find out more and to access language activities and audio scripts, visit our Learn English website at www.britishcouncil.org/Learn English.
E-economy.
I'd like to look at a vital aspect of e-commerce, and that is the nature of the product or service. There are certain products and services that are very suitable for selling online, and others that simply don't work. Suitable products generally have a high value-to-weight ratio. Items such as CDs and DVDs are obvious examples. Books, although heavier and so more expensive to post, still have a high enough value-to-weight ratio, as the success of Amazon, which started off selling only books, shows. Laptop computers are another good product for selling online. Digital products such as software, films and music can be sold in a purely virtual environment. The goods are paid for by online transactions and then downloaded onto the buyer's computer. There are no postage or delivery costs, so prices can be kept low. Many successful virtual companies provide digital services, such as financial transactions, in the case of PayPal, or means of communication, as Skype does. The key to success here is providing an easy-to-use, reliable service. Do this and you can easily become the market leader, as Skype has proved. Products which are potentially embarrassing to buy also do well in the virtual environment. Some of the most profitable e-commerce companies are those selling pornography and other sex-related products or services. For a similar reason, online gambling is highly popular. Products which are usually considered unsuitable for selling online include those that have a taste or smell component. Food, especially fresh food, falls into this category, along with perfume. Clothes and other items that need to be tried on, such as jewellery, are generally not suited to virtual retailing. And, of course, items with a low value-to-weight ratio. There are exceptions, though. Online grocery shopping has really taken off, with most major supermarkets offering the service. The inconvenience of not being able to see the food you're buying is outweighed by the time saved and convenience of having the goods delivered. Typical users of online supermarkets include the elderly, people who work long hours, and those without their own transport.
This recording was brought to you by the British Council. To find out more and to access language activities and audio scripts, visit our Learn English website at www.britishcouncil.org/Learn English.
Hello and welcome to this podcast, brought to you by the British Council.
Now let's take a look at some ways in which we can increase the levels of our own emotional intelligence so that employers will be fighting over us. The first step is to label our own feelings rather than labelling situations or other people. We should say things like, I feel angry, instead of, this is a ridiculous situation. Secondly, it is very important to know the difference between a thought and a feeling. In terms of language, we express thoughts by saying, I feel like, or I feel as if. But for feelings, we say, I feel, and then a feeling word, an adjective, happy, angry, frustrated. Next, and this is a crucial point, we should take more responsibility for our feelings. Instead of saying, you are making me jealous, we ought to say, I feel jealous. After this, we need to learn how to use our feelings to help us make decisions. Ask yourselves, how will I feel if I do this? Or, how will I feel if I don't? Another important issue here is respect. We have to respect the feelings of others. We should ask ourselves questions like, how will this person feel if I do this? And of course, it isn't enough to just respect the feelings of others. We have to show others that we care. We do this through empathy and understanding. And we should accept people's feelings. They are just as valid as our own. Then we come to energy. We need to turn anger into energy and use it to take action. Productive action, that is. Finally, after getting used to understanding and analysing our emotions, we should practice getting a positive value from them. Ask yourselves, how do I feel and what could help me feel better? And don't forget those around you. How do you feel and what would help you feel better? To sum up, I'm going to leave you with 2 pieces of advice. Don't criticise, advise, control or lecture others. Just listen with empathy and in a non-judgmental way. And what about people who invalidate you? Easy, avoid them. And when it isn't possible to avoid them altogether, try to spend less time with them and don't let them get to you. Follow this advice and I am sure that you will soon increase your EQ level. You will feel happier and more positive, and hopefully this will rub off on those around you.
That was really good, wasn't it? We hope you've enjoyed this podcast. To find out more about the British Council and what we do, contact your local British Council office or go to www.britishcouncil.org. Bye for now.